Some footage was never meant to be found. Tapes sealed away. Files deleted. Hard drives smashed and buried. Yet, somehow, one piece always escapes. It always finds its way back. They say the camera doesn't lie. But what if the truth it captures was never meant to be seen by human eyes? This isn't fiction. What you're about to hear are fragments of recordings discovered across 3 continents, hidden in abandoned archives, police vaults, and private collections that were never catalogued. Every clip you'll see tonight was once locked behind evidence tags, labeled as classified, unverified, or worse. Inconclusive. You'll notice the silence between the frames, the places where sound cuts out, where light refuses to touch the lens. Investigators say those moments aren't glitches. There's something else. Something that doesn't want to be seen. For years, experts tried to trace the origins, who filmed them, where they were taken, and what happened to the people behind the camera. None of them lasted long. Every file, every report, every statement, ended the same way, missing. This is what remains. What you'll witness in the next few minutes is the recovered evidence of events that should never have been documented. Footage that exists when it shouldn't. Footage that refuses to die. Viewer discretion is advised. Tonight, we open the archive. 5 recordings, unearthed from forgotten servers, sealed basements, and police storage units that no one dares to touch. Each one carries its own silence, its own unanswered question. They were meant to disappear. To stay lost beneath decades of dust and denial. But somehow, they survived. We don't know who first filmed them. We only know that every person who tried to destroy these clips ended up vanishing, or worse, becoming part of the footage itself. The files span decades, from the era of grainy VHS tapes to the high-definition clarity of live streams. Yet every frame, no matter the age, shares one impossible detail: something watches back. Authorities claimed the footage was fake. Analysts disagreed. The timestamps matched unsolved disappearances, the voices matched missing persons. The more we studied the evidence, the more the footage began to change, faces shifting, backgrounds rearranging, as if the tapes themselves were alive. You'll see glimpses of what we found: a motel room light that never shuts off, a hospital door that opens on its own, a forest trail that leads nowhere, a live stream that ends mid-breath, and a home video that was never meant to be played again. Stay until the end, because the final recording, number 1, isn't just disturbing. It's the kind of evidence that makes you question every shadow you've ever ignored, and every sound that came from the wrong side of the wall. 5 recordings that shouldn't exist, and yet, here they are. The first recovered recording came from a roadside motel just outside Fairview County, Nevada. The structure had been condemned since 1989, after a fire gutted half the building. No records remain of the owner. No official blueprints. Just a name carved into the lobby counter, room 7. 2 travelers, a young couple documenting forgotten places for a YouTube channel, arrived at the site in early spring. The footage begins normally: laughter, nervous excitement, the kind of tone that fills every abandoned exploration. They joke about ghosts, about cold rooms and flickering lights. But 5 minutes in, everything changes. At first, it's the sound that changes. A faint thumping. 3 short knocks, coming from inside the walls. The camera pans, but there's nothing there. Then, for the briefest second, the light flickers, and someone else's reflection appears in the mirror behind them. Not a trick of the glass. Not a glitch. A man, standing motionless, staring toward the camera. When the light stabilizes, he's gone. They keep filming. The woman points the camera toward the door. It's slightly open. But they never touched it. The wind outside is dead still. And yet, The doorknob moves, slow and deliberate, as if someone is turning it from the other side. She whispers, "Did you see that?" And from behind the door, barely audible, a voice answers. 2 words. Caught on the recording at exactly 13 minutes, 11 seconds. "Get out." They freeze. The man laughs again, nervous, trying to brush it off. But the camera catches his hand trembling. The tape shakes. The audio fractures into static. When the picture clears, the woman is gone. He calls her name, again and again. No response. Just that same sound, the 3 knocks, closer this time. The camera turns toward the bed, and for less than half a second, something is visible beneath it. Movement, a shape, pressed flat against the floor, crawling toward the lens. The man drops the camera. It lands sideways. The frame tilts, half-focused on the door. That's when the security footage from outside the room comes into play. Time-stamped 3 minutes later. Room 7's door swings open. No one leaves. No one enters. Just air, heavy, motionless. Then the door closes on its own. The feed cuts to black. When investigators entered the motel the next morning, the couple's car was still parked outside. Both phones were left charging on the dashboard. But the room they entered, room 7, was sealed from the inside. The doorframe swollen, like something had forced it shut from within. Inside, the bed was made. Fresh sheets. No dust. No sign of struggle. Only the camera, sitting perfectly centered on the dresser, facing the mirror. The last frame of the footage shows the man's reflection. He's standing still, but the reflection blinks. Would you keep recording, if you heard a voice whisper your name? Comment below if you dare to spend a night there. Because after this next recording, you might think twice before walking into any place that looks abandoned. The next recording was found on an SD card recovered from the basement of an abandoned psychiatric hospital in West Virginia, the Brookhaven Mental Institute. The facility was shut down in 1963, following allegations of illegal treatments and unexplained patient deaths. For over 60 years, the building was sealed by court order. Until a small group of urban explorers forced their way in, armed with flashlights, a single camera, and the belief that nothing could surprise them anymore. The first 10 minutes are ordinary. Graffiti, broken tiles, nervous laughter. But as they descend into the lower wing, the one marked Ward D on the peeling directory, the footage begins to change. The air grows heavy. Breath fogs in front of the lens. The temperature drops nearly 15 degrees in less than a minute, verified later from their thermal log. You can hear it in their voices, the way they start to whisper without realizing why. They find a storage room. Inside are hundreds of patient files, some dating back to the 1950s. Faded photographs, names scribbled out with black ink, files stamped, transferred, no record. But the hospital closed before any transfers took place. One explorer reads aloud a note from a file, Patient 83, Persistent Delusions. Claims to see staff after lights out. That's when the first sound appears on the tape, breathing. Slow, uneven. It doesn't belong to any of the group. You can hear all 4 of them talking, none are close to the microphone. The sound is coming from behind the camera. They turn around. Nothing. Just a long hallway stretching into black. Their flashlight beam shakes across a cracked wall. In the distance, a hospital bed rests against the far end of the corridor. It looks freshly moved, tracks in the dust leading from a nearby room. One of them laughs, saying maybe someone else is inside. They continue forward. As they pass the old patient rooms, the camera captures details the explorers never mention: handprints on the glass, wet footprints leading the opposite direction. At 17 minutes, the footage begins to distort. The image pulses, like the frame itself is breathing. The beeping stops. Then, for exactly 8 seconds, the video captures movement at the edge of the light. A figure, standing just beyond reach of the flashlight's beam. Dressed in a patient gown. Motionless. Watching. They call out, but no answer. The sound of their footsteps becomes frantic. The camera turns, showing the hallway behind them, now empty. When they face forward again, the figure is gone. But on the next frame, a single bed appears in the center of the hall, the same one from before. Sheets flattened, as if someone just lay there. A clipboard sits on the mattress. On it, written in faint ink, the words, "Admitted, 4." There were 4 explorers. Only 3 made it out. When the footage ends, the camera pans, briefly catching the reflection of something behind them. A silhouette, tall, still, facing the lens. You only see it if you pause at the exact frame before the recording cuts to black. Some say the hospital still runs, just not for the living. The monitors flicker on at night, and through the windows of Ward D, people claim to see figures walking the corridors, slow, aimless, waiting for the next admission. Pause the video. Did you see what's standing by the bed? The third footage was found sealed inside a weathered metal box near the edge of Pine Barrens National Park, an area infamous for over 30 disappearances in the last 20 years. The tape was labeled with a single word, written in smudged black ink, "Help." Forensic analysts confirmed it was recorded on a handheld camera belonging to a group of 3 hikers who vanished in 2014. No rescue team ever located their bodies, their tent, or their gear. Only this recording remained, buried beneath a fallen tree less than half a mile from their last known GPS signal. At first, the video seems harmless: laughter, conversation, the crunch of footsteps. They talk about getting lost after sunset, about how their phones died. You can almost sense the moment their tone shifts. The laughter fades. Their voices drop to whispers. Then comes the first sign of something wrong: silence. The kind that doesn't feel natural. No insects. No wind. Just the faint echo of their own breathing. The camera pans. Between 2 trees, a shadow moves, quick, too tall, too thin. The flashlight flickers as if reacting to it. The man holding the camera calls out, thinking it's another hiker. No answer. The next few seconds are shaky, erratic. You hear a woman's voice whisper, "Did you see that?" Another voice replies, "It was behind the tree." They move closer, against every instinct, the light trembling with each step. For a fraction of a frame, a figure appears, pale skin, eyes wide open, staring straight at the lens. Then it's gone. Replayed in slow motion, it moves without sound, as if the woods themselves are pushing it forward. From here, the footage turns frantic. Heavy breathing. Running. Branches snapping. They're whispering to each other, terrified. The man says he saw something following them, moving without footsteps. One of them trips. The camera falls into the dirt, facing upward. Through the frame, you see the treetop swaying, and then, between the branches, a head looking down. The last clear line of dialogue comes from the woman's voice. You can barely hear it under the wind, but the words are unmistakable. "It's following us." Then the sound cuts. The tape ends abruptly, replaced by the faint hum of static, but when investigators examined the final frame, they discovered something hidden within it. In the lower corner of the screen, barely visible through the interference, there's a marking carved into the bark of a nearby tree, a circle intersected by 3 vertical lines. The same symbol has appeared in 3 other missing persons cases across the state. Some believe it's a forest ranger mark. Others think it's something older, something meant to warn, not to guide. But the strangest detail is this: every rescue team sent into that area reports hearing the same sound within the first hour, crying. Always in the distance. Always a woman's voice. Their bodies were never found. Only this tape. If you look closely, pause the video at the 30-second mark before the end, you'll see it. The symbol. Watching from the edge of the light. And if you do see it, you'll understand why no one ever goes back to that forest after dark. The next footage isn't from an archive, a police file, or a missing persons case. It came from a live stream, broadcast live to more than 12,000 viewers before it vanished mid-transmission. The streamer was a small content creator, known online only as Eli Vids. His channel focused on home repairs, casual chats, and paranormal debunking. He'd often mock viral ghost videos, recreating them to prove how easily fear could be faked. But one night, he decided to test something, his own home. The stream begins at 11:47 p.m. Eli tells his audience he's been hearing noises beneath his floorboards for weeks. Scratching, like nails against concrete. A neighbor told him the house used to belong to a mortician, one who worked from the basement during power outages in the 1960s. He laughs it off. He wants to prove nothing's there. He brings his camera, a flashlight, and his phone, descending the narrow staircase as thousands of viewers watch from behind their screens. At first, it's uneventful, just dust, old furniture, and pipes humming through the ceiling. The chat scrolls fast, joking about jump scares and filters. But then the audience begins to notice something Eli doesn't. One comment appears: "Is someone behind you?" He laughs, turning to show the empty stairs behind him. Another comment follows: "No, really, there's a shadow moving." He brushes it off, blaming bitrate lag and lighting glitches. But the chat explodes, line after line flooding the feed: "Behind you. Don't move. It's in the corner." He turns the camera toward the far corner. For one brief frame, 1.6 seconds, to be exact, something crosses the background. A shape, tall and thin, gliding through the darkness behind the shelves. It doesn't walk. It just passes. Eli starts to panic. His voice shakes, still trying to sound confident for the camera. He asks if anyone saw it. Thousands respond, yes. He turns back to the stairs, ready to leave, when the sound begins, faint at first, like slow, deliberate breathing through a wall. Then a scraping. Something dragging across the floor behind him. He spins around. The camera catches the shelves shaking. Dust falls from the ceiling. His voice breaks: "Hello? Who's there?" No response. Just a voice from the chat: "It's right next to you." The camera jerks violently, image blurs, and for a heartbeat, you can see it. A figure, crouched in the corner. Eyes reflecting light, like glass. A grin, wide and motionless. The video freezes mid-motion. The sound warps. Then, a scream, raw, real, and short. The feed cuts to black. No goodbye. No fade out. Just a final second of static, and silence. The live stream page disappeared that same night. Within hours, the account was deleted, not by the platform, but by the user. Except there's one problem. The platform's record shows the deletion occurred 27 minutes before the stream ended. Days later, fragments of the broadcast resurfaced on an encrypted server. Experts noticed something strange, a single frame that wasn't part of the original footage. It appears 1 second before the stream cuts off. A darkened image, Eli's face, frozen, his eyes wide. And just behind him, a figure, smiling. But the teeth don't match the proportions of a human mouth. The account vanished that night. But the stream's archive reappeared on the dark web, with one frame added, someone smiling in the dark. Would you keep watching, if your chat saw what you didn't? The final footage, the one authorities refused to publicly archive, came from an attic in a suburban neighborhood just outside Dayton, Ohio. It was discovered during demolition. The house had been empty since 2001, its windows boarded, its records missing from city files. Inside the attic, workers found a sealed cardboard box wrapped in newspaper. Inside that box, a single VHS tape labeled, "Birthday, 1997. No last names. No notes. Just that one word. The footage begins just as you'd expect. A living room full of life, children singing, the glow of birthday candles flickering against wallpaper. A man, assumed to be the father, holds the camcorder, adjusting focus as his son giggles over a cake. Every sound is warm. Familiar. Until the 3-minute mark. There's a bang from upstairs, heavy enough to shake the chandelier. The father laughs it off, joking about old pipes. But then it happens again. Louder. The laughter stops completely. You can see the mother's smile fade. She looks toward the staircase. The father sets down the cake, mutters something, and begins to climb the stairs. The camera follows him for a second, then pans back toward the dining room. This is the moment every expert rewatched hundreds of times. The boy steps closer to the mirror, just inches away from the glass. His reflection is crystal clear, but something doesn't align. He tilts his head slightly, the reflection tilts just before him. Half a second faster. Barely visible, unless you slow the footage down. The mother returns. You hear her voice off-screen, saying there's no one up there. She turns toward her son, but the camera doesn't move. It's focused on the mirror. And now the reflection smiles. Wide. The child's face remains neutral, confused. But in the reflection, the mouth curls up slowly. Teeth visible. The expression lingers for 2 whole seconds before the camera abruptly pans away. The father comes back down. He looks uneasy. He keeps glancing toward the ceiling. You can hear him whisper to his wife, "It sounded like someone walking." They try to continue the party. The camcorder rests on a shelf, still recording, as the adults talk in the kitchen. But the boy remains in front of the mirror, whispering something none of the microphones could clearly pick up. When the footage slows frame by frame, experts noticed another detail. Behind the boy, in the reflection, a dark figure appears briefly in the hallway. It has no defined shape, just a tall, shadow-like outline. It lingers for exactly 2 frames, less than 1/10 of a second, before vanishing. The child's reflection, however, turns to face it. The family never appears again on camera. The rest of the tape is corrupted, visual fragments of faces melting into static, colors bleeding, audio warping. And in the final clear frame, right before the signal collapses, both the child and his reflection stare into the lens together, identical now. Perfectly in sync. Experts confirmed, the reflection moved before the child did. No names, no records, no trace of the family exists today. The house itself was demolished. And the tape, sealed by investigators, reappeared years later on an online archive, uploaded under a different title, He Wasn't Alone. Rewatch the clip. You'll see it too. 5 recordings. 5 glimpses into what should never have been captured. 5 moments where the camera, the one thing meant to tell the truth, became a window into something else. The deserted motel room, door opening to no one. The hospital wing, a silhouette that still walks the halls. The forest tape, a pale shape that moved without sound. The basement live stream, a face smiling from the dark. And the family home video, where the reflection knew the script before the living did. 5 tapes, all found years apart, across different states, filmed by strangers. Yet every one of them shares something impossible. Different places. Different decades. But every recording, captured at exactly 3:15 a.m. No one ever noticed it before. Not the police. Not the archivists. Not even the viewers who've watched these clips millions of times online. Until frame by frame, a pattern emerged, something buried inside the noise. A hidden reflection that doesn't belong to any camera operator, any person, or any light source we know. It watches through the lens. Waiting. Recording. As if every camera, every screen, is its window. Maybe the tapes weren't warnings. Maybe they weren't accidents. Maybe they were invitations. Who recorded us first? But here's the question. If they've been watching us through every lens, how many times have they already recorded you? Viewer discretion was advised. You've just watched 5 pieces of footage that shouldn't exist. 5 moments erased from every archive, every record, every trace of official history. But somehow, they found their way here. To you. Maybe you think you're safe, that you're only watching a video. But every single frame you've seen tonight came from a device just like yours. A phone. A camera. A webcam. They all see more than they should. If you look close enough, you'll realize, the watchers never left the footage. They're still there. Waiting for someone to notice them again. Subscribe, before the next footage goes missing. Because next time, it might be something watching you.